Charles reached out his hand to Kate instead of Camilla. The silent hall was left stunned. There are moments in life that nobody plans for. Moments that happen so fast, so quietly, that if you blink you miss them. But the people in the room, they never miss them. They feel them. And sometimes, one small gesture can say more than 100 speeches ever could. This is one of those moments. It was a formal event, the kind that requires careful dressing, careful posture, and even more careful words. The kind of event where everyone knows their place and everyone stays in it. The walls were decorated, the room was filled with important people, and the air carried that particular weight that comes when royalty is present. Not heavy exactly, just aware. Like everyone in the room was quietly holding their breath. King Charles III walked into that room the way he has walked into every room for the last several decades. Slowly, deliberately, with the kind of calm that doesn't come naturally. It gets built over years and years of being watched by everyone, everywhere, all the time. He has spent most of his adult life learning how to move through public spaces without giving too much away, and mostly, he is very good at it. Queen Camilla was nearby. She is almost always nearby at these things. That is simply how their life works now. After everything, all the years, all the headlines, all the complicated history that the world still has very loud opinions about, they stand side by side. They face the cameras together. They do the job together. Charles chose Camilla a long time ago, and that choice has never been a quiet one. The world has always had something to say about it. But on this particular day, in this particular room, something happened that nobody was expecting. Charles reached out his hand, not toward Camilla, toward Kate, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. She was standing there in the way she always stands at these events, poised, warm, doing the whole thing with what looks like effortless grace but is actually years of practice. She has been doing this for over a decade now. She knows how to smile at the right moment. She knows how to hold herself. She knows, better than almost anyone, that every tiny movement she makes will be studied and discussed and photographed and zoomed in on later. And yet, in that moment, she simply received the gesture, warm, natural, like it was nothing. But the room knew it was something. Nobody screamed. Nobody pointed. This is the British royal world. People do not behave like that in these spaces. But there is a different kind of reaction that happens in rooms like this one. It travels silently. It moves through the crowd in tiny adjustments. A slight lift of an eyebrow here, a barely there pause there, a set of eyes that flick quickly across the room, and then just as quickly look away. You would not catch it on camera probably, but if you were standing in that hall, you felt it. Something had just happened. To understand why that gesture mattered, you have to understand a little bit about who Kate is in this family. She is not just a princess. She is not just William's wife. Over the years, she has become something much more specific than that. She has become someone Charles genuinely likes. Someone he trusts. Someone who, by most accounts from people close to the family, has made his son genuinely happy. And for a father, especially one who spent so many years watching his own family fall apart so publicly, that is not a small thing. There is also the weight of the title she carries, Princess of Wales. It is a title with a very long memory. The last person who carried it, Diana, is still present in the public imagination, in a way that very few people ever are, after they are gone. She is there in the way certain songs are there. You do not even have to try to remember them. They just come. Diana is part of the story of this family, whether anyone wants her to be or not. And Kate, who now carries that same title, carries all of that with her into every single room she enters. Charles knows this. He has always known this. And then there is Camilla. The woman he spent decades fighting to stand beside, the woman the public took years to accept, some never fully did. The woman who became queen consort and stands at his side now with a quiet dignity that, if you watch closely, has its own kind of strength to it. She does not flinch. She does not perform. She simply continues. She has learned, over a very long and very public life, how to hold her face still when she needs to, how to let a moment pass without letting the world see it pass through her. So when Charles's hand moved, toward Kate, not toward her, Camilla's expression did what it has been trained to do for years. It held. Now, here is the honest truth about a moment like this. In real life, in the actual room, It was probably over in 2 seconds, maybe less. Charles's hand moved. Kate received it. The moment continued. People kept talking, kept smiling, kept doing all the things that people do at formal royal events when they are trying to look like they are not being watched even though they absolutely are. But a gesture is never just a gesture when you are part of the royal family. Every handshake gets photographed. Every glance gets analyzed. Every small, unplanned moment gets pulled apart by thousands of people who have been following this family their entire lives, and who have, by now, developed very strong feelings about all of them. And this gesture, this small, quiet, apparently unconscious reach of a hand, told a story. It told the story of a man who, in a room full of ceremony and protocol, forgot for just 1 second to perform. Who, without thinking, reached towards someone he feels genuinely comfortable with. Someone who feels like family. Not the family you are given by tradition or by title. The family you actually build. The kind that makes you feel, just for a moment, that you are somewhere safe. There is something else worth saying here. Something that does not get talked about enough in all the endless commentary about this family. Charles has not had an easy life. That sounds strange to say about someone who lives in palaces and has never once worried about money. But emotional ease and material comfort are two entirely different things. And Charles's emotional life has been one of the most complicated, most publicly picked apart lives of anyone alive today. His marriage fell apart in front of everyone. His relationship with his sons has gone through things that most families would never survive. He has been criticized and mocked and misunderstood for most of his adult life, and he has had to do all of that while also being required to show up, smile, and represent the nation. He became king after waiting longer than any monarch in British history. He did not step into that role young and full of fire. He stepped into it as an older man who had already carried the weight of it his whole life without the official title. And somewhere in all of that, Kate became someone he is genuinely fond of. Someone who, by all accounts, has been kind to him. And kindness, for someone whose life has had as much public coldness as Charles's has, is not a small thing at all. Outside the hall, the moment moved fast. Someone had a camera, of course. Someone always has a camera. A few seconds of footage made its way into the world, and then came all the things that always follow. The slow-motion replays, the close-ups, the commentary tracks, the opinions from people who were not in the room and will never be in the room, but who feel, deeply and sincerely, that they understand exactly what happened and what it means. Some people called it a slip, an accident, a man momentarily forgetting which direction to turn. Some people called it a signal, a sign, evidence of something deeper, something shifting, something that tells you about the invisible architecture of this family's relationships. Some people called it nothing at all and moved on with their day, and some people, the ones who have been watching this family long enough to know that the smallest moments are often the most honest ones, simply watched the clip again, quietly, trying to figure out what it was that their gut was telling them they had just seen. Here is what seems most true. Stripped of all the drama and the headlines and the slow-motion replays, a man, in a crowded room, reached for someone he cares about. His body moved before his mind could catch up with all the rules about where his hand was supposed to go. It was the kind of thing that happens when you are genuinely comfortable with someone, not performing comfort, but actually feeling it. The ceremony of the room did not fully contain him in that moment. That is actually quite beautiful, if you think about it. Because we spend so much time watching these people from the outside, reading about them, forming opinions about them, forgetting that inside, all the protocol and the tradition and the very heavy weight of history, they are still just people, still capable of small instinctive moments of warmth, still capable of the hand that reaches out before the brain says wait. The hall went quiet for a second, not the quiet of scandal, not the quiet of shock, just the quiet of a room full of people who had witnessed something they were not supposed to witness, something real. And then the ceremony continued. The smiles returned. The room moved on, the way rooms always do. But the moment stayed. It stayed in the footage. It stayed in the people who were standing close enough to feel it. It stayed in the way certain moments always stay, not because they are loud, but because they are true. Charles reached out his hand to Kate. And in a life built almost entirely on performing the right gesture at the right time, that was the one moment he did not perform at all. That was the one moment nobody was supposed to see. And maybe that is exactly why it said everything. We live in a time when everything about the royal family gets filtered through so many layers. The press, the social media posts, the official statements, the carefully managed photographs, that sometimes it can feel like you are watching a very expensive television show rather than actual human beings living actual human lives. The costumes are real, the buildings are real, but the people inside them can start to feel less real, more like characters being moved around a stage. And then something like this happens. A hand moves in the wrong direction, and suddenly, for just a second, the curtain slips. And you remember that, behind all the ceremony, there is a father who loves his daughter-in-law. There is a son who found someone who makes him happy. There is a woman who showed up to this impossible job and decided to do it with everything she had. There is a queen who has fought for her place beside the man she loves and earned it through sheer endurance. There are real relationships here, complicated and warm and imperfect, just like every family's relationships are. The hand reaching out told you that. Not the speech before it, not the photographs after it, just the hand, moving on its own, before anyone could tell it where to go. That is the thing about truth. It almost always arrives without warning, and it almost always arrives small. The silent hall was left stunned, not because something went wrong, but because, just for a breath, something went completely right. Something human slipped through all that gold and protocol and centuries of tradition. And the people standing in that room, the ones trained their whole lives to keep straight faces and say nothing, could not quite pretend they had not seen it. Some moments just have that power. They do not need to be big. They do not need to be loud. They just need to be real.